Rich?
Here.
Mrs. Gallagher?
Here.
Mr. Kraftcheck? Here. Mr. Parzak?
Here.
Mr. Levens?
The meeting is now open. Adequate notice of the meeting was provided by posting a copy of the time and place on the municipal clerk's bulletin board and mailing a copy of same to the press and the Cape May County Herald on January 4th, 2019. Will everyone please rise to salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to rearrange the agenda a little bit, and we're going to start with recreation and tourism. We have some guests here from the Super Sevens rugby organization, so rather than have them sit through our hour-and-a-half workshop, though I'm sure you'd find it fascinating, we're going to start with recreation and tourism.
Introduce David New, he's the president of Super Sevens Rugby. They're proposing to have an event here Sunday, September 1st. It's the Sunday of Labor Day weekend. I think you all have in your packages probably a small version of the site area, but I thought it would be a little helpful if we had it larger. So
Just do me a favor, Jenny, make sure that mic is on, and it just is a lot better for
are we
the-
here? Sorry about
Okay,
Yeah.
a lot easier for the minutes. Okay.
Yeah, so, September 1st, Labor Day weekend. It is an event that they're proposing to have here. It's the first time that they've proposed this event here in Stone Harbor. So I'm going to, I don't know where this is helpful.
I was going to vote against it. Okay. You want to do it? Okay.
Well, listen, where's our easel?
I don't know. I think it's in that.
Don't we have an easel?
So I'll let you, David, start.
The reflection of the sun.
Mayor, council members, my name's David New. I'm the president of Super Sevens Rugby. We're an organisation that's presenting professional men and women's rugby across the country. This event here on Labor Day weekend is an idea based around a number of things. Our league will be one of the first of its kind to present professional rugby sevens, the version of rugby that's in the Olympics now, for men and women, paid equally. It's a program that's been born out of a number of years of experience in the sports and entertainment business, in the rugby business. The company around this is United World Sports, which is the group that presents some of the largest rugby sevens events in the country. One of the most recently was in March in Las Vegas, about 80,000 fans over the course of 3 days, live television with ESPN. In June, an annual event, the Collegiate Rugby Championship, that brings 24 of the largest and most iconic rugby playing schools in the country, from all the way from Dartmouth to Cal, Penn State, St. Joseph's in Philadelphia. It's about 18,000 fans over the course of 2 days at Talon Energy Stadium. This series and this tour will start in Honolulu in Hawaii in the Pacific, and it will take 6 stops all the way across the country, with the final stop here in Stone Harbor in New Jersey. So it's part of that program with broadcast national television and moving 220 athletes and staff around the country to present the game. The reason why we've looked at this opportunity here in your town, in this beautiful location, is that my background's been in rugby for many years, and my sons have played in the tournament that's been here over the course of the last couple of years at the Surfside Sevens that's held here in July. For club members, men and women, high school boys and girls throughout the country. So it's an exciting opportunity to do 2 things. One was, with the last stop, we looked at it being at Talon Energy Stadium in Philadelphia, and then we thought about, could we be a little bit more creative in taking our game to a large audience in this wonderful location and expanding the rugby presence that you already have and growing that to benefit everybody. When we come to the cities in each of these 6 stops, we'll prepare, promote and practice in those locations with all of our assets and players and coaches and staff. And we'd like to do more than just play a game of rugby here. We'd like to have a presence where we could work cooperatively with the business community, with with the youth organisations of the town and present coaching clinics and do a lot for the community itself. So it was an event that we wanted to come and bring here, not just once, but we wanted to make it an annual event. So it was born out of an idea that when I was sitting around watching the game and my sons play in this past summers, to think that's a great space there. We put together a great business and a great program in a larger way, a much larger scale way. How do we build this out so that it could be an opportunity for about 2,500 fans, where we could make a contained event that was controlled, that was presented in such a way that it looked a lot more like polo than it did some other type of event that you might sometimes associate with rugby, which is reasonable to understand that you could have some concerns there. But for us, it's an exciting opportunity to do a number of things, not only present our event, but also present the city over the course of that time. From the 1st of April until the 1st of September, it's about 5 months of preparation time. Within that, we'll be presenting and promoting our tour and our series. And within that, we'd like to position Stone Harbour within that profile of the event as not only the last destination for our exciting tour, but also promote the community here and put that on a national profile through our broadcasters and our broadcast partnership, and also international. Rugby's an international game, so there'll be a quite significant presence and following and profile around the event itself. The staff that are here with me, there's a staff of 10 of us that have started an office in Philadelphia, the parent company being in New York. So a couple of people from New Jersey, locals, and Philadelphia. So most of us reside or live in the area and spend a lot of time here, so it's not like we're a bunch of, even though I'm Australian, a bunch of foreigners that have landed here on this beautiful island. But Bobby's involved with logistics and operations, Bob Weeks and Ken Bozarth, so they manage all of the bits and pieces around this to make this machine work. Dan Urusso is the head of rugby operations on our behalf, so he takes care of the athletes and builds the teams. And Tori Caruso is brand and marketing, so Tori's going to work heavily involved, she'll be heavily involved in the marketing and the building of the profile around the broadcast and media and the promotion of these events. I hope that gives you a general snapshot of what we want to do. The site map build out there gives you an understanding of how we'd physically like to be able to prepare the space.
I'm just going to interrupt you 1 second. If you gentlemen could move off to the side and flip it the other way, the audience can see that as we go through. Is that in your way, or you guys want them off to the side? And then we all have one in front of us that you can enlarge on the Dropbox as well. Then the audience can be engaged in the conversation as well.
The site map there defines the space in terms of conversations we've had over time with Jenny and a couple of other members of the local business community here and members of the recreation department. They're having a little trouble there.
A little crooked. Might be easier to see that way, too.
Technology. There it goes.
So our goal was to create the space in such a way that it was contained, that we'd be able to create opportunities for local vendors to be involved in participating in positioning their brand or products within the program as well. The entry fee or the admittance fee here would be nothing more than $10 for an adult and $5 for a student. So we weren't looking to create it in such a way that it was out of reach to anybody, but it was more of a community family event. Within that, there'll be 6 games across our 12 teams of professional men and women, and they'll play off from the 5th and 6th place all the way to 1st and 2nd. So it'll be quite a finish. We intend to broadcast the whole event live, which we'll be doing for all of our events across the country. At the moment, we're in talks with a number of networks. ESPN's been our partner in our events over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, and then prior to that, it was NBC. So we expect that the main games will get positioning on the free-to-air platforms and then across over-the-top platforms as well. So it's multi-screen viewing for these events, both here in the US and internationally. In terms of how we would present the event day, it would probably start at some point around 10 a.m. in the morning and finish at about 7 o'clock at night. So it's a day full of not only the performance for the athletes, but also engagement and activity for students and children and youth throughout the area, where we're working through a program at each of our locations where we'll do a try rugby program which within the week we will have coaches and athletes and players be involved in school visits. And I know it's outside of the school hours here in summer, but working with youth groups as well to not only present and promote the game of rugby, but also a healthy lifestyle. And in terms of, you know, being actively involved in playing and getting outside and running around. So rugby certainly, you know, exhibits a lot of those qualities. The business opportunity here for us is that it made more sense for us to bring it to this space in terms of taking it to a beach location where we wanted to present it like a high-profile, international, world-class event where we thought it would just be a wonderful location in the summer months and at the end of summer. Happy to answer any questions around the site map, or any of the guys can respond to in each of the areas they're involved in.
Do you anticipate then setting up bleachers, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and this is all equipment that you'll be bringing in and with you. So just, how long do you anticipate it takes to set up? Do you come in Saturday night? Do you come in very early Sunday? What's that kind of logistical?
Yep. For this type of event, we'd probably have to get in Saturday afternoon and do set up, and then the first game will kick off from around 11 o'clock on Sunday or maybe noon. So the morning time gives us enough time to set up as well. There may be need for bringing in some of the equipment prior to that on a Saturday, depending on the activity.
Prior to Saturday?
Yes.
Okay.
If that was possible. And then being the holiday on the Monday, potentially the breakdown would be behind that as well on the Tuesday.
Will be on
If
Tuesday.
that was available, yeah. Given that what we want to bring in terms of the bleacher seating, we're working through that process now. Would that be a function of bringing them in as they exist and bringing them in on trailers and or building them out, setting them up and breaking them down? So
Your other tournament locations, are they similar to this where you set up, or is it more a stadium
yeah,
style?
A number of them are stadium style,
Okay,
but some of the others in San Antonio, Texas, and then Columbus, Ohio, will probably do a fair bit of our own.
you do something like this where
Yeah,
you set it
to
up.
build it out and fit it out a little larger for the crowd.
Anybody got anything?
We talked about it in BRT, so we know a little bit more than probably everyone else, but I think the timing of it is perfect for our community.
Great.
And the players, I was told the players would be in Atlantic City and be bussed in, correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
In terms of availability and space, that's probably where we'd house them. There's 222 people at the moment that will move between the 12 teams, coaches and staff.
okay.
So we'd like to keep them all in one facility where we can move them back and forth. But certainly, one of our goals is, as I mentioned earlier, is about we'll be in the area for a week. So any way that we can be involved in promoting or helping, you know, work together with the local community throughout those days from the Monday to the Friday. So Monday's an arrival day, Friday's the last day of preparation for us, weekend is the game day. So anywhere from Monday to Saturday, our players and teams would be available to come in and do some.
Maybe there'd be some way of having, I was thinking some kind of a kids
Oh,
clinic.
Absolutely, yeah.
Teach them the game, have some kind of we could get some advertising out early and do something leading up to it for different age groups, something like that.
Yeah.
The other thing that we've heard from some of the folks we talked to is that there's not a lot that goes on downtown for some of these events, and we would strive to do that as well, certainly get the downtown community involved.
Anybody else have any questions, concerns?
Jenny, this will go through a regular event application, correct?
Yes,
It's on-
the application is actually in circulation
Okay.
already.
All right.
But we just wanted to get them a chance to talk to you guys, because there was a meeting now.
Sure.
Just to kind of speed it up. So the application is in circulation.
Okay.
Getting the signatures. We actually did meet with them, what, a week and a half ago, just to, with some of the Public Works people and some of the rec people, just to get there, and the police, just, you know, to get some feedback from them as well, to see if we even thought this was feasible.
Well, the event application will go through all the department heads
Yes.
for,
It's in, I said, it's in
Okay.
circulation.
Going
right
there now.
now.
the,
It's been there.
I just have the flyers that we have, it notes 2,000 to 3,500 possible
Yes.
attendees. Can you accommodate more than that? I
We
mean,
could,
I
based on the
just, I don't know how these tickets would be sold. I don't know if they're going to be sold online before the event, or are there going to be tickets at the door?
Yeah, part of the plan is to sell them online, and so that at some point, there'd probably be a ceiling on the number of fans that would come to this, based on the capacity of the space that we could build out, but also based on controlling it in such a way that we're aware of the ticket sales and what it looked like in advance, but also some information around those attendees. You know, there's quite significant information around the pre-sales from our other events as well. So it'll give you a good indication of, are they locals? Are they people that are coming in and traveling into the town and spending time here?
Well,
How
that's
much-
like, I'm being selfish, I guess, because I'm looking at the local residents, that they're, you know, that they will have an opportunity to purchase.
We'd
tickets.
absolutely
Yeah.
make that
Yeah.
available.
All right.
And we'd certainly work with everyone to assign a number of tickets that we made sure that was the case.
Okay.
Anybody else? And all the department heads were in on that initial meeting, so any concerns have already been, I'm assuming, were kind of fleshed out a little bit at that meeting?
Yeah, we pretty much fleshed out all the concerns with that, so I don't anticipate anything negative coming back. Public Works was there and police.
Grant is shaking his head no.
He's shaking his head no.
Doesn't- So I can't ignore that. I mean,
Right. You were not there, but there was representation from your departments, my understanding.
Correct.
Okay. Well, yeah, and we're in that process now. It's my understanding, too, that there's looking at almost shutting down the street like we always did for the fireworks.
Yes.
And the,
That 100 block and then First Avenue, kind of like that, and having that flow of traffic the same way. So,
is the arts and crafts, too.
right, right. Something you've done many times, Grant. Okay, it'll continue to make the rounds, and whatever concerns Grant has can be addressed.
It's my understanding that that you would like a determination as quickly as possible, because they want to go to print with advertising, so
Yeah,
I think we're looking to do this within the next month, correct?
that would be great. It would be helpful in terms of everyone's understanding of this tour, from where it starts and where it finishes. That would be very helpful.
Okay. So continue to circulate the application, and we can, if everybody sees it, and it can come before us at the next council meeting unless there's some issues that you guys need to work out with the department heads. So we'll just continue to keep moving through the process. Okay, excellent.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
for your
much.
time. Cheers.
Do you want to just continue? We'll just continue with this department? Okay.
I have a couple of applications I just want to talk about for some other future events that are coming up, that you'll have them for the next meeting. So this is just kind of a preview. So those applications will be ready for the following meeting. We have applications for special events from Seashore Ace. It's their grill demonstrations. They do 4 of them. They would like to do one, they're all Saturdays, April 20th, May 4th, June 8th, and June 22nd. This is just from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., performing grill demonstrations in front of their store. They do this every year. They're just asking for 2 no parking signs for the 2 meters in front of their store. The Women's Civic Club would like to do this is a new event for them. It's a 4th of July, they're calling it 4th of July Food Fest by the beach. This will be on July 4th in their parking lot from noon to 10. They would like to invite 6 food vendors to sell food in their parking lot from noon to 10. It'll end basically when the fireworks are over. So they'll be responsible for their own trash, placing it in their dumpster, like any other event that they would have there. The borough's asking that the food that they're selling on the property actually remains there, so that people aren't, leaving and taking trash anywhere. And also that it's not anything duplicating what the concession stands that the borough has as well. And we are also asking that they provide an additional portable toilet for the event. And it is a new event for them, and there's no admission. And then the third.
Just one question, Jenny. Everything that they're going to do, they're doing on their own property, correct?
It have to be on their property.
Okay.
It is that's their private property.
Okay.
It'll be all contained to the parking lot. And then the third thing I have is the Wetlands Institute Summer Celebration. That's Saturday, July 7th. And this it's the same thing that they did last year. They'd like to use a portion of the 80th Street Marina parking lot for their valet service for the fundraiser at Icona. They said it's the same exact setup as last year. They're just asking that area be barricaded off for parking for their fundraising event.
And that's the 27th.
July 27th, yes.
Good.
And we've been doing that the last 2 years,
Yeah.
correct? And that's same, okay,
She said nothing has changed, the same,
On that.
in the same area of the parking lot.
okay.
So those will be coming before you, the next meeting to approve.
Is there anything that the Civic Club's doing that requires a special events application if they're basically doing this all on their own property? What exactly is our role in that?
That's interesting because they have a wedding there and we don't know about it.
Right,
Oh, they do get a permit for their wedding.
for their tents.
For their tents, just the tents.
Right, but
not-
otherwise, is it a special events application that's all on private property?
Are they
Are
asking
we-
for
I
any?
mean, they brought the
Right.
application in.
Are we removing their trash from this?
No, they'll be putting it in their dumpster.
Then we remove it from the dumpster,
Do we?
don't we? Don't
No.
we remove the dumpster?
As our regular service, or is this an additional service? Well, then,
Yes, that's why
That's the
I'm
case.
seeing where it's not a special events application. Anybody disagree?
You might want to say that.
I mean, we can, Joe?
No, I mean, the only thing different is the food trucks, and if that's not I don't know if that.
I think they've had weddings where they've brought in food trucks, haven't they? That's been their caterer as a food truck. It doesn't appear to be anything more than their typical events
Like
that they
If you
hold.
had a wedding there.
Yeah.
Do they need something for serving alcohol outside for the
They,
weddings?
again, they do it every wedding. This is everything they're doing every weekend, probably even crowd size.
Yeah, but they're not selling alcohol.
So is that maybe, are they selling alcohol at this?
No alcohol, but they're selling food. The vendors are selling the food, yeah,
So that's where I'm seeing where I don't know that they need and
they really need it.
if it's fully contained on their property.
Right.
Right.
There is a note on the application that might need Public Works to remove the trash during the event.
Yeah, we felt though, the 4th of July, our Public Works are going to be busy.
and they were advised of that?
So,
And so I feel like it's not I feel like it's not a special events application. It's a
Either way.
party on a private property.
Nice of them to let us know, though.
Yeah,
yeah, they
Okay.
want us to know.
okay.
Well, that's everything I have then. Just a
Okay.
FYI, actually, the arts and crafts deadline has passed. Any applications that are coming in after February 28th, they are subject to a $25 late fee. I do have, just as an update, as of this morning, 137 returning vendors and 61 new, so there's still quite a few spaces left. So I'm leaving it open in case people still want to apply.
Good.
All right.
Okay.
Great.
Anything else? Good job on the newsletter,
Yes,
on your first newsletter.
Newsletter went out on Friday, and also our Facebook is doing pretty well, by the way. We started a official borough Facebook. We've actually, in the last 28 days, reached over 12,000 people.
Excellent.
So it's growing. We have 400 followers, so
Getting there.
feel free to share with your friends.
Okay. Got to beat the peeps.
Yeah. No complaining on ours.
That's a good deal.
Yeah, no complaint on ours.
everybody.
Hello.
Oh,
So what I have right now is we talked about it in the committee meeting, that there's addition of 2 camps. There is a powerhouse field hockey camp, which I think is actually going to be awesome for us because it's the only field hockey camp available on 7 Mile Island. Avalon does not have a field hockey camp. And with the success of our surrounding area, I know that Dennisville has a great program, and Middle Township does too. So those 2 local programs are really excited for it. It's directed by 2 USA national team members, so I think that that's gonna be a huge hit for us. And we also added an Exit Zero lacrosse camp, which is skill development and small game instruction for girls 8 to 12. I think, not being sexist here, but I think a lot of the guys have a lot of the boys have a lot more offerings as far as camp-wise interests, so I think that that's going to be really awesome to kind of balance that out of our offerings between camps and clinics. And then I teamed up actually with George from Joyce Media, and he is revamping our recreation website. We're going to make it more user-friendly, and it's going to be able to talk to Rec Desk a lot easier, so if you need to, if you show up for surf camp, you'll be able to register right then and there. So we're trying to reduce the cash transactions that go on between yoga and all of our EUSs. So really excited about that. It's set to launch April 1st. And at that time, we will release also the summer 2019 programming information, which we've been getting a lot of phone calls about. People really, I've gotten phone calls about people registering for surf camp. So I'm like, okay.
wow. Yeah.
They're getting ahead of themselves, but, and then registration will be as normal, May 1st for property owners, and then May 21st for non-property owners. By popular demand, we added a beginner line dance class with Kathy Cashmere to our free class offerings at the elementary school. So we have a senior cardio sit and fit, and then we'll be adding the beginner line dance class as well. People are really excited about that. She has a huge following.
In the summertime, is that?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. She does have a huge
She has a
following.
huge following. So, I mean, I know a lot of the people that go to her Wednesday class from 4 to 5 get really bummed out when it comes summertime. They don't have anything to do. So it's going to be the same offering, same time, and it's just going to be down at the elementary school. So they're really excited about that. And then we secured most of the Monday Family Fun Night entertainment. We're just waiting on, I just need to hear back from the wetlands to see if we can secure them for the one last date. Because I know that the pet tank or whatever that usually comes, a lot of the people have really good feedback with that, so I'd like to have them back again. And then good news, the staff for 2019 is set.
Excellent.
And we only had 2 people not returning, and it was only for internship reasons.
Wow.
So with the addition of the tennis pickleball support building, we may have to hire somebody else because there's going to be extra office hours. But we'll see, because I know that the arts and crafts counselors only work from 8 to 12, so they do have some hours if they want to pick up some office hours. And that's it. And I have the flyers. I don't know if anybody wanted to check it out for the new camps.
Okay.
That's it.
And we were notified on March 14th, that we did receive the Healthy Town designation for 2018. So it was interesting endeavor, because the last time we received this was 2016, and Miranda handled the application process. So as you know, Miranda was not here, so Kim and I handled the application, and to tell you that that thing was work is an understatement. It was 10 typed pages, single space, by the time it was completed. And then we waited and waited and waited, and they held off. They were a week late in releasing whether or not you did get the designation, and we did, the only town in Cape May County to get that designation. 8 towns in the state received the designation. So we're very happy about that. And we'll be looking to continue with some programs with that, so,
Yep, absolutely.
yep. Good job, Kim. I'll tell you what, I was like, Miranda, where are you? And I think that's it. Anybody else have anything for recreation and tourism? Okay. So bump it back, we'll go back up to the beginning to public safety.
Okay, first up, court.
afternoon.
Hello. Hey,
Everything
Deb.
is running smooth. We're in the middle of trying to schedule a lot of DUI trials and other special trials. Destruction reports are going, so, which means we clear out a lot of our tickets, make more room. I really have nothing else other than, well, one other thing. We're looking to hire part-time help for the summer. My part-time help has left a year ago to get a full-time job, so I'm going to be looking for new help. And we're hoping to bring them in the end of April, beginning of May,
In what capacity?
just to answer phones, put data entry, 20 hours a week. So it's basically minimal. We don't let them handle the money to begin with, until we get comfortable with them.
So it's mostly clerical.
All clerical.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
okay, so if anybody knows anybody looking for a part-time job,
Thank
we will be taking applications.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions for the court? You can come visit, still once a month. Well, not too many people know what happens during court, or have seen Judge Birchmeyer on the bench. I think you would all be impressed with him. So,
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks,
Yes,
Deb.
thank you.
Fire?
Good afternoon.
Hello, Roger.
I don't have anything for the easel, I'm sorry. The report for the fire department, during the month of February, we had 13 fire calls, and that was up from the previous year. We had 27 EMS calls, and that was also up. The calls included 1 cooking fire, 1 motor vehicle accident, 4 natural gas leaks, 1 cover assignment, and 6 fire alarms. And did you want me to proceed with my next thing?
Sure.
And I do have some handouts for this. Trying to save the trees. All right, as you know, the fire inspector, full-time fire inspector left December 31st, take a full-time job as a firefighter. So I've asked to replace the fire inspector, and I've been asked by council to explain what the Fire Bureau does. So once you have all your papers, we'll start from the beginning, and you can follow along.
Got any more?
Maybe one forever from council and mayor and the administrator.
Okay. We'll send that down to council, and I'll share with Mark. Okay.
All right, I just wanted to start with the history of the Fire Bureau. A lot of people don't understand how this actually started. In 1986, the state adopted for the first time the fire code. Each town was given the opportunity to start a fire safety or fire prevention bureau. The borough chose to adopt a fire prevention bureau within the Stoneborough Volunteer Fire Department that was administered by the borough. And you can see in 1986, we had the first uniform fire code official with 3 inspectors, and then you can just follow along. I don't think it's that important, the people that were there, all the way till the present.
Roger, would you kindly define the role and the responsibilities of the fire inspectors?
I will. It's in my packet.
I'm sorry.
Just if we can just.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to show you what we've done over the years with this office. The only major change we made in 2015 was when we hired John Schwartz. He was moved from the 32-hour work week to the 40-hour work week. The next page is the actual ordinance that sets up the Fire Prevention Bureau. And again, the LEA is the Bureau of Fire Prevention within the Stoneborough Volunteer Fire Company number 1. And it talks about how the fire official and fire inspectors are appointed by the borough. Basically, the Fire Prevention Bureau's job is to enforce the New Jersey State Fire Code. New Jersey State Fire Code is enforced upon every building that is not owner-occupied, and is to ensure that all patrons, renters are fire safe in businesses or rentals. So when you go into a an example would be a business, that you know that the business is safe, all the egress is accessible, the alarm systems are all working, the aisles are all clear. It shouldn't be under you to be worried about whether or not the place is safe or not. Same thing with the rentals. A rental is a business. It's not an owner-occupied structure. It is a business, just like a establishment. If you turn to the next page, it talks about the Fire Safety Act. And there was a question that it was raised in the public safety meeting about, it says that the Bureau of Fire Prevention shall carry out periodic inspections of life hazard uses and non-life hazard uses. Then in the fire code, it says that the LEA can define the meaning of periodic. So if you go to, are we following along here?
Go ahead.
Okay, I highlighted it. Our ordinance says that that you need to register, and non-life hazard uses shall register with the Fire Prevention Bureau, and they shall be inspected once per year. And if you look, there's two definitions in the fire code. There's non-life hazards and life hazards, and I'll get into how to explain, but you can see from the list under non-life hazards what actually are required to register and be inspected. Everybody have that? The assembly, businesses, mercantile. I am
Page,
294-5, non-life hazard use
page 2.
inspection fees. Okay. Okay, so again, once per year for all of them. That has been going on since 1986. The businesses have been inspected since 1986 by those inspectors. We turn to the next page. Another thing that's required of the Fire Bureau is to conduct a certificate of smoke detector compliance. It's now been expanded to be certificate of smoke detector compliance, carbon monoxide, and fire extinguisher compliance. And this is done for every property that is sold, change of occupancy. So myself and Ray Poudier, the zoning official, inspect every property that is sold in town. We conduct an inspection. They're issued a certificate. Ray's job is to make sure that they didn't add bedrooms, remove bathrooms, add bathrooms. My job is to make sure it meets these requirements. So we've been doing that for a number of years also. We turn to the next page. And the important thing is there that I think somehow the rental inspections and the fire inspections seem to think are the same, but the rentals are, as part of this ordinance, inspection of registered rental units is conducted because they are non-owner occupied structures. And again, same where it said periodic, we have in the fire ordinance that they shall be inspected at least once in every 12-month period. And we are inspecting, the residential rental units shall be inspected by the borough, determine compliance with the zoning ordinance, New Jersey State Housing Code, and the Uniform Fire Code. And it has all the definitions in there for the rental. There is a separate ordinance for the rental license.
Does that mean that like buildings like the Golden Shores has to be inspected annually?
Yes.
Okay, anything that's more than 2,
I inspect the actual
Units.
Golden Shores unit, and then the individual rental units are inspected separately.
but separately, and even if even if they're owner occupied, that building gets inspected?
The common area gets inspected.
Okay,
But if you own your unit and you only occupy your unit, I cannot go into that unit.
okay,
New Jersey, and I think probably the solicitor can say, we are a home rule state. And basically what they've always told us is your home is your castle. You can do anything you want in your home as long as it's owner occupied. The minute you offer that to someone else, we can do an inspection.
okay.
So if we turn to the rental unit registration ordinance, chapter 205A. So basically a rental unit, again, is just like a business. We require mercantile licenses for businesses. We require rental licenses for rental units. We actually Avalon has had this ordinance, at the time it was 25 years when we adopted it, so I guess it's more than like 35 years now they've had this rental unit registration. It basically in the beginning, and we don't have that issue that much anymore, was a way to deal with group rentals and problems with group rentals. And also a way to, because the fire inspection requires an inspection by the fire code, and you're also required an inspection for rental through your rental license. And we are the facilitators of that inspection, if that makes sense. Okay. So basically, if you want to read the preamble, it says why we're doing it. It's for the safety, health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the boroughs of the visitors of Stone Harbor, protection of persons and property. And again, it talks about consistent enforcement of borough ordinances related to fire safety, zoning, and construction. When we do inspect, we look in those properties for any violations, not just fire code violations, but zoning and construction. We find numerous instances where a heater was installed improperly without a permit. We have a form that we give to the construction office. Ray and Mike Kuchenberry go out, make them get a permit, and install it properly. So that's also part of our job. If we were to go in and if they had installed an illegal bedroom or an illegal bathroom in the garage, we would also turn that over to the other agency. Again, if you just turn to like 3-7 on that rental license, just talks again about all rental properties or rental units contained there in this ordinance shall be annually inspected and licensed. You can see in the rental ordinance that one thing that was important to the committee at the time, and I know that the mayor was on the committee at the time, was occupancy. And what we had a number of when we first started our inspections, and we still find it today, is illegal occupancy. And that means that there's bedrooms that are placed in areas that can't have bedrooms. One of the biggest ones we first started was we had beds in the attics of the rental units. So you would have an attic space in a property with 6 beds that was an illegal occupancy. They would have the small attic windows. So there would be no way for someone, if there's a fire, to get out of that property. So that's one thing that we dealt with right off the bat. The other thing is people will put multiple bunk beds into bedrooms trying to get more occupancy. If you can see by this, it actually defines the sizes of the requirements of the rooms and what the occupancy can be of that room. Again, the whole idea here is to avoid having a fire in a property and have a multiple loss of life because it's over-occupied for that property. And again, if they have to post a number of occupants, on the certificate that we issue them, it has a number of occupants that can be in that property. This talks about fees. You can read this at your leisure. Now, if you want to turn to the page, which is 2018 activity for the Fire Bureau.
When's the last time we raised our fees?
2009 was the first. That's not been raised in 10 years.
Hasn't been since fees were imposed, okay.
No. So we look at 2018 activity, and again, just to define what we were talking about, the first one is non-life hazard use. That includes any non-owner occupied businesses and rental properties. There was 1,000 inspections completed last year, 564 re-inspections last year, 95 fire alarm tests, for a total of 1,659 inspections. The state, and again, I alluded to this a little bit, the state also has a classification of a life hazard. A life hazard is a occupancy in Stone Harbor that meets the requirements in the code of a life hazard. And an example would be Fred's Tavern is a life hazard. The Harbor Pub is a life hazard.
Movie theater.
Any restaurant over 50 occupancy, any restaurant serving alcohol. They are life hazards and they must register with the state of New Jersey. We then receive 2/3 of the fee back into our, and when you get into the fees, you'll see we get that money back. But I am required to follow the inspection frequency for those life hazards. An example of that is the Harbor Pub. Anything like the Harbor Pub, the Yacht Club, Fred's are required to be inspected 4 times a year instead of 1 time a year. So we have 31 inspections of life hazards with 42 re-inspections for a total of 73. We also issue permits. Any open flame device requires a permit. So if we have all these special events, and like we talk about with the Anybody that serves food that uses propane is required to get a permit. I then come out on the weekends and inspect all those vendors. We inspect for flame-proof tents, securing the propane bottles, fire extinguishers. Anybody that does a hot roof is required to get a permit. Anybody that has a tent at the Civic Club is required to get a permit. And one of the big permits we do is the fireworks. So we did 29 of them last year. And again, we talked about these smoke detector, they're called smoke detector carbon monoxide fire extinguisher certificates. We did 127 of them. So total inspections by the Bureau was 1,888 inspections for the year. And I just attached on the next page is just, this is some of the violations that we find. These violations were actually issued last year. That's between the non-life hazard and the life hazard uses, just for your information. It would be a great day if we didn't have to do re-inspections, but every year we have the re-inspections. All right, so if you want to turn now, I put in the actual job description for the emergency medical technician / fire inspector. This was developed by the Public Safety Committee in 2009, and it lists the duties of the inspector. Basically, they perform duties required as an EMT for the Borough of Stone Harbor, and they also perform a variety of administrative and technical work related to fire inspections. So if you look in the description of the duties, he's an EMT, performs duties required as Borough EMT, which includes responding to EMS calls during working hours, providing basic life support. And then his fire inspector responsibilities are listed there also. This is a very unique job with a very unique set of skills. So you're required to have 2 state licenses. You're required to have a fire inspector license and an EMT license issued by the state. Each is only good for 3 years. It requires you to do continuing education for those 3-year period. Both prior fire inspectors were not certified when they started. We gave them a year to get certified. The candidate I have requested for this is not only certified as a fire inspector, he's certified as a fire official, so that's the top certification you can get. He's also been an EMT full-time for 10 years. All right, the next page just talks about the licenses required. Then the next, I put in there, has the job description for EMT. Then I put in the job description for the fire official, as defined by the committee in 2009. You can read that at your leisure. One thing that's important to think about, that we get into the first page is, I actually added the business plan that I wrote in 2009 to create this fire bureau. When we first started this in 2010, we had a full-time administrative assistant, a full-time fire official, and a part-time fire inspector. After the first year, it was quickly realized that the part-time fire inspector would not work. So we went back to the committee, and the committee said we could have a full-time inspector, but we could not have an administrative assistant. So the Fire Bureau took on all the duties of the administrative assistant and the duties of the fire inspection and the fire official. So that means we don't have a assistant in there answering a phone, doing all the fee entry, all the registrations. We do that, or basically I do that. So when I asked for the fire inspector, the first time I was told that there was not enough money.
Well, first, I think that you need to explain why the person needs to be an EMT,
Okay.
because I don't think
All right. We have, in my 30 or 29 years as fire chief, one of the biggest problems we've been facing in Stone Harbor is the lack of volunteers. We have tried numerous models, and I look around, I think the mayor's probably the only one that remembers all. We've tried everything to try to resolve our EMT lack of volunteer issue. We had at one time Public Works as our EMTs. We actually had a beach medic at one time. If you look in the first page, we actually had the full-time fire official who was an EMT. What has happened now for the last 10 years is the borough provides one EMT from 7 to 3:30, and the rescue squad, with the donation of $70,000, provides that second EMT for the daytime. So it's a great plan, it works out great. It's difficult in today's world to find people, even if you're hiring them part-time, to work as an EMT. Having that one dedicated person every day is huge. It's a lot easier to find a second person than to find two people. Most of my EMTs that are working over there have 4 jobs, and most of them are EMS jobs. A lot of them are paid firemen who are also working as a EMT here, in addition to 2 other places. So it's very difficult to have that EMT, that manpower base. My goal has been, and will continue to be for, as I said, for 29 years, is I do not want to go to a paid fire EMS service. It will be the biggest budget item that you have, from the borough standpoint. We talked in the committee about consolidating. There's no one to consolidate with. There's no volunteer. We have a volunteer company down the street that is having the same problems as we are of getting manpower. So you're going to have to hire paid people. Avalon has a paid EMS service. I had the numbers from 2009. It was $400,000. It has to be more than $500,000, and that's only EMT service. We have fire EMS service. So to hire fire EMS personnel would be very expensive. So we're trying to maintain, and you know from the stipend programs that we have going on and all, it's very difficult to keep this going. So that's the goal. It's worked out well. It's worked for the past 10 years. Any questions about that?
Well, I think, you know, one of the things that council was looking for was an explanation of all the duties that go on in that office. And-
Well, I had a note that in the
And you've
beginning,
provided that, you know.
we are the
because
silent service.
The council, you know, we turn over and new people come
Right.
on and we don't know what, so
Right.
I think that's been great. And you know, I personally defer to you as the fire chief. I mean, if you're telling me that it's that busy that you need 2 people, and I understand that the benefit of having that extra EMT here during the daylight hours, you can't argue that. And it's an essential requirement. The salaries that you're looking at is not that, you know, overwhelming. I mean, I think it's something that we need to do.
Yeah, sorry.
Just my
At the beginning, I
opinion.
had listed on there that we are the silent service, that no one knows what we do until something doesn't happen right. If we had a major fire death and they came in and said we didn't do the inspection, then you would know a lot about the fire bureau. To stand here for my meetings and say we did inspections, we just do the job, and that's what we do. So,
I think you wanted to ask, why did we come up with a shortfall financially this year? Where did
Yeah,
that
I
come
guess
from?
that is the question at hand, is how come now that there's some kind of an issue with filling this particular spot? And the only reason that, well, not the only reason, one of the reasons I asked that is we did have an opportunity at one point when the gentleman who did occupy that seat was deployed. So we had an opportunity there, and we decided we need to fill it with temporaries. So apparently the workload, I guess, is there. Where is there a shortfall, or are the fees covering the office? What is our biggest issue with filling this position?
I don't think there's an issue. I think it was needed for the explanation for some of the council people that did not know it. But when Roger had asked for a certain salary, basically the response was, okay, but it would have to be whatever we've budgeted.
Okay.
By going through that process, we did the analysis, and because of the increases in salaries over the years and the medical benefits, pension, and things like that, and never raising the fees, we're not covering the expenses. But that's a choice. You don't necessarily have to cover. It doesn't have to be self-sustaining. Not every department is.
Okay.
That's your choice as a council, whether you feel that this type of service should be, and if it is, then you could raise your fees slightly to cover that. We're looking at right around now,
I think I
it's
saw
about
that.
40-some thousand if we take out the
43,000
pension.
proposed for next year.
I'm sorry, what?
43,000 proposed.
Yeah, but I think that figure, when we started talking about, that figure will go down because depending on who you hire, if they're in or not in the pension plan, so there, that could
can move,
change.
That can move.
So then
Yeah, so
you're-
right now, it's about 43,000.
So the increased overall cost of the program, you're saying it came from the 10 years of growth and all the associated pension?
Correct, and not raising your
wages and
fees to
salaries and
stay up
whatnot.
with it, yes.
Okay, right.
And the fee's not been
Fees
raised.
Stayed steady, okay.
So I guess my question would be sorry, if we did not get a resignation from the prior person, so we were working on this budget last year, have we budgeted everything this year? It's included in the 2019
Yes.
budget at this point?
Yes.
I just wanted to go on record, and I made this perfectly clear to the committee. I'm not proposing a rate increase. When the administrator said to me we were at a shortfall, I went and looked at the figures, how we could reduce that shortfall. I think we're fine where we are. Our neighbors to the north in Avalon, just to give you an analysis, they charge $375 for a rental license. We charge $150. So we could raise it to the Avalon rates if the borough decides. I don't want to do that. I think we're fine where we are right now. But the numbers that you see in here for that Fire Bureau revenue was just me plugging in numbers to make it so we could be flush. So again, that's up to the committee and the council, but don't take this as I'm asking for a rate increase.
No, clearly you're not, yeah.
The last page, if you care to look, again, was the business plan that I wrote in 2009 to make this work. And it was pretty spot on exactly what happened with the rentals and what's going to be anticipated. It did have the full-time administrative assistant and the part-time inspector, which we changed that first year, but otherwise it's worked out really well. And I would just, before I take questions, but there's a lot of stuff that happens with the fire department and EMS and the Fire Bureau that I know as new council people especially, you probably aren't aware of. You sign a stipend resolution in January and maybe not understand it. I am always available to explain it to you. I know the insides and outs. I've been here for a long time, and I was instrumental in getting most of this stuff passed. So if you ever have a question, I'm here every day. I will certainly just sit down with you and talk about what goes on and try to answer it and explain to you what the problems that we face every day.
I
just
think
want-
I'm sorry. I think it's, you look at these things, it's almost like a user fee, and we really shouldn't be running at a deficit if it's a user fee. It's kind of a black and white issue. So, that's just my thought. The rates that we had talked about in committee, what equates to like $50 a rental property or a household to,
And that would make up that deficit, is what you're saying? Is it,
right.
is it something that's, it's budgeted for this year? Is it something that
Yeah,
A&F should consider for 2020?
Yeah, it
Then
would
at this
it would be
point,
too late
correct?
for this year,
Okay.
yeah.
So it's something that needs to be
We would
looked
bring
at for
forward
the
that in, like,
2020 budget.
In like November, when we're looking at all of our fees.
Just to let you know, I need to know before November because that's when the bills go out for the following year. So something we should probably pass in September
Okay,
for 2020, so I could change the computer program and get all the bills out for
okay.
2020.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to comment on the issue as a whole. I think Roger touched on this. I think this is a clear situation where hindsight would be 2020, and I just think about what his office does and how the serious nature of it, and we don't know the serious nature until there's a casualty. So we obviously I don't want that, none of us want that to happen. So I think this is an example where I wouldn't even think twice about this, and quite frankly, it's an easy decision for me. I don't know why we would consider otherwise. This town's been run professionally, responsibly, and safely for so many years. So it's an easy decision for me.
Anybody else want to weigh in on any of it?
I want to,
At the meal. I mean, I said my piece when we were talking about it in committee.
I do want to bring up something else, though, with Roger, that we also talked about in committee, because I've been thinking about this, and we talked about modifying the verbiage on the license or applications that Roger sends out, setting up these fire inspections. So, and you know, I don't think, I talked to you last night about it briefly at the zoning board meeting. I think we're on shaky ground, if, and the solicitor's here, so he can weigh in anytime he wants, if we go into these properties without authorization from the owner. I just don't think we should be doing that. We should have something, you should have something in your file that says, yes, I'm renting it, yes, we realize you're, or a paid bill that recognizes that you're going to do the inspection.
Yeah, we
I
can look
just
at
think, I know you want to get ahead of the curve with it, but I just think we're opening ourselves up to problems with that. You know, why is Stanford in my house? You know,
Well, I
unknowns
mean,
to
it's
me.
something we can definitely look at. I can
Yeah.
talk to Avalon, and who's been doing it for 30 years, and all of our forms and all of our procedures are based on Avalon. It's been, you know, if you read the rental ordinance, it talks about agents and managers and caretakers that the renter is required to have. So they designate the realtor as their caretaker. They pay them to do it, so they are authorizing it. We get the keys from the realtor. We do, again, I've never been called and told this, except from some people, but from the real estate agency, but they complain that they give us a key and we inspect, but they weren't renting. Well, I would say then we shouldn't have gotten a key from the real estate agent if they're not renting. They get a list of keys. We get.
So are you saying you might be in there without the owner's knowledge, but you have a caretaker's knowledge that you're in there because you obtained the key from them?
What'll happen is that they are registered, then they decide not to rent, but they're still in the system as a renter. So the key list goes out every 2 weeks. On their name is on there with their address. The realtors give us the key, and we go in there and do the inspection.
Okay.
And the complaint is that they didn't want to rent, so that we shouldn't have been in there.
Okay, I thought he's just going in. Oh, I inspected here last year, I'm
Well-
going in. I didn't realize he's
Well,
going to a caretaker and obtaining a key. Isn't that essentially owner's permission if the caretaker hands you the key?
Yeah, I mean, I described in that way, yes, but with the bottom line is still the same. We've got an owner who is not aware that our fire inspectors are going into his house. You know, you have the case where the house is sold,
Right.
you know, and now you have a new owner, for example, that has no plans to rent, never even gave it any thought, and all of a sudden, he finds out that somebody.
Then I would ask, why is the real estate agent handing a key over?
Yeah.
That's a different situation. In a situation where the owner has designated the realtor as an individual who can show the property, consent to the management of the property, you're on good ground to do that. If there's been a change of ownership, that's a different situation.
Well, okay, that's fine. I just, somehow tightened it up so that we,
Yeah, I can
know,
look at the language, and as I said, we send out every year a letter of points to the owners, and we can put something on there. The newest thing we're finding now is that the owners are giving us key code combinations, because that's the new trend now. We have key box combinations. We have, the realtors know, the owners of the rental owners know they have to be inspected, and they are not here. So they will do anything possible to get that place inspected. And, they have to have like I said, a caretaker, manager, or a number of people make appointments with me and we meet for an inspection. So we're doing everything possible to get in these buildings. And
So basically, the crux of what we're discussing here is whether or not to fill that position.
exactly.
And whether or not, so I'm just kind of trying to see if there's a consensus for Jill to move forward, whether or not we're going to move, forward with this, so.
And
Consensus.
what is Jill's recommendation?
My recommendation is fine to move forward with it. I just wanted to bring to your attention the fact that it was not self-funded. And it would be at the salary we budgeted, which Roger's on board with.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay,
Well, I think, yeah, you have consensus, I think. No one's objected, right?
right.
Okay, so I can inform the candidate that he is,
You and the administrator can do it, whatever you're going to do.
all right? Any more questions?
Just a silly one. Most of the units now are doing the locks boxes, correct?
A lot of units, not lock boxes, number of people are going to the lock
Combination?
combination.
Combination.
Some do have key boxes on there, some do. A lot of people are moving towards that lock system with keys.
I
We
know
punch
this-
in a number.
I know this is going to sound a little bit crazy. If there's a fire in that building, are you permitted, if you have that number, to use it to get in?
I could, if there's a fire in the building, we're not gonna wait and unlock.
Well, I know that. I mean, a conflagration, I understand. But if there's a smoke detector going off, or it's wired to the, the property checks
Well,
that
I
the
don't
police
have
do?
access right now of that information.
Okay.
In my capital budget was new computer software. Hopefully that will be on the pad, and we would have those key codes in there. But hopefully the house would have a Knox box, which is required. If you can see that we rate a number of people for Knox boxes, and that we would get a key through the Knox box to get in there. But we're not breaking into a house most of the time for a smoke detector going off.
Yeah, I know that. I know that. I don't know if everybody else knows that, but I know that. Okay, just thought.
All right,
Okay, all right.
thank you very much.
Thanks, Roger.
Please.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Chief.
The report for the police department for the month of February, there were 73 motor vehicle stops and 2 adults were arrested. The monthly update on personnel, we still have 3 Class 2 officers in the police academy, the Winter Police Academy. That will end sometime in April, so we will get them working ASAP. We still have 2 full-time recruits in the police academy, and we will get them back sometime in June, early June. We have 7 Class 2 applicants that just took the pre-PT test to get into the police academy. They took it this past Saturday. 6 out of the 7 passed, but we have someone who's backfilled for that 7th person already, so we should be okay there. They still have to go through the psychological, drug testing, things like that, but I think we should be all right. We still have 1 full-time officer away at military training with the National Guard that we expect to have him back in April. We have another full-time officer that's away at military training for the Coast Guard with JT. Hopefully all goes well and we get him back by the end of the month, right? End of the month? Okay, thank you. We need him back. And we also had a letter of resignation submitted by Officer Kyle McCouch that will take effect on March 23rd, which is Saturday. Upon receiving that letter of resignation, I submitted a personnel requisition to Mrs. Goucher to provide to the Public Safety Committee. That was quickly returned with approvals to fill that vacancy by Officer McCouch. We appreciate that, all the support, the ongoing support to fill these positions. And we will be posting a job announcement for that position by the end of the week. So our goal is to have someone hired and working by the summertime. That's it on personnel. In terms of the building, Phase 2 is still underway. I was just in there today. I'm in there often, but was just in there today. The locker room is basically almost done, but for the ceiling and floor, but all the lockers are in. The armory was put in today for the guns and ammunition, things like that. The walls are in, painted. It's rolling along very well. And we had a preliminary building dedication planning meeting with the mayor, Mrs. Goucher, myself, Mrs. Olson, and several other officers or personnel from the PD. and everything seems to be going well with the scheduling so far for the invites and things of that nature. So hopefully, we'll be fine for May.
And just by way, the Public Safety Chair, Bob Levins, was at that meeting as well. And just by way of reminder, May 17th, it's the Friday of National Police Week. Actual dedication, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Tours of the building, 11:30 to 12:30. Then like an announcement will be made to kind of get everybody outside so we can have the actual ribbon cutting. Then we're going to have tours of the building continue for maybe another hour or so after the actual ribbon cutting. And then we're going to have a mini reunion reception at Fred's, and that should be very fun. I did just recently, what we decided to do was put out a save the date to previous employees and retired personnel from the police department to get as many of the people who have gone in and out of that building and worked in that building as possible to this dedication. And even I just got a message today from somebody in Florida who left our PD in the early 80s and wants to come up for it. So it's interesting, the amount, it's really getting a lot of excitement from the law enforcement community, from people who have, like I said, been in and out of that building for years. And also locally, we want to invite the local Cape May County law enforcement officers, the county chiefs, and we really want to make a big hoopla out of this, and we want to show support for law enforcement in general, and particularly for our law enforcement here in Stone Harbor. And it's been a long time since there was a new building. So it should be a good day for Stone Harbor. Residents are going to have access to the building, take a full tour. You know, it should really be a nice event for everybody.
And if there are residents, I know I've taken several through already. If a resident just wants to come over between now and then, they can certainly stop in. I'd probably recommend to call, just to make sure myself or Captain Palmer's there. We're the ones who normally give the tours. It's kind of like we've become an unofficial tour guide. But the residents are always welcome to come on over. We'll walk you through and answer any questions that anyone might have.
And the dedication itself is in the newsletter, so for our second homeowners who will be coming back into town, they can be aware of it as well. So, anything else for the chief?
Thank you again for
Thank
all the
you.
support. We appreciate it.
Good afternoon. I don't have much to report at this time of the year. I am preparing lists for equipment orders and things like that for the summer uniforms. And I've started the process of staffing the beach tag department. We have to get that done a little ahead of time. I found if we start too early, then the people that you select find other jobs, and you don't find that out until the middle of May. So right about now is the best time to start calling people. I noticed there was an item on the agenda for recommendations for changing any designated beaches, the activities. I don't recommend any changes. I think it works. We're very accommodating, more so than most towns in the area. I mean, we have everything from, we have Hobie Cats, kayaks, surf fishing, surfing, stand-up paddleboarding, rafting. We have a lot of activities that a lot of the towns in the area do not provide. And I think we've effectively used the space that we have along the ocean front. So it's accommodating and it's safe, but I don't recommend any changes, and that's my report.
Okay. So then, based on that recommendation, we'll bring forward the resolution for that at the next meeting. Okay. For the beaches.
I have a question. How are the repairs for the inside of the building for 2019 going?
They've been working on it.
Good.
I think we'll be fine.
Good.
I'm sure they'll
Okay,
make
Good.
it work fine. It'll be fine.
good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. So we had the county OEM meeting was on the 14th. Couple of things were discussed. Nothing major significance except for one, they are going to be resurrecting the entire CERT team program. I know that we had discussed this in the past and that we didn't want to be involved, kind of, sort of. Avalon, I've spoke with Mayor Palugi as well.
What is it, JT? I don't know what it is.
The Community Emergency Response Team. Basically, it's a FEMA program where it allows people to volunteer. They receive some training. I know that Mrs. Rich has been to this training and was once certified. And they get called upon to help with crowd control or during major events. They could be called for fires, for traffic control, things of that nature. One of the biggest problems that they have is they're not permitted to have an actual county team. Each team has to be administered on the municipal level. They were doing it on a county level, but they kind of weren't supposed to be. The problem was, and I'm sure you remember this, they would send the folks to all this training and they're all ready to gung-ho, but then there was nothing for them to do. So if council's on board with it, I spoke with Marty and Ed Dean, we would actually partner with Avalon and have a consolidated team, a 7-mile team, which would be honestly wholly administered by Avalon. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to open it up to our residents using our social media platforms and all of that, and just put them in contact with Avalon. The county is going to but they are going to do a better job of finding opportunities for these folks that aren't just in their local communities. So when you have the Escape the Cape, you can put it out to all the municipal coordinators. We need volunteers, and then have those folks, because we know those folks are willing to travel. And we do have a need for them, just not always in Stone Harbor. So I think one of the things going forward is they're going to have the understanding, there are going to be opportunities in Ocean City. There's going to be opportunities in Cape May, Middle Township, Lower Township, Upper Township. So folks can volunteer for those opportunities. They really want to get this back going. I think because there's actually, with our growing population, the number of events that we have, there's actually becoming a need for it. So again, we're not going to have much to do with it other than solicit our residents that are interested and simply put them in contact with Avalon, who will handle all the coordinating.
Is the training done on a municipal level, or is the county going to train?
The county will do it. They are looking to do that. I believe it's going to be sometime this fall. It actually is going to be in the fall. They haven't ironed out all the details. This was just preliminarily brought up at the county OEM meeting last week. I assume that that would be something that we would definitely be interested in for our residents, especially because we're not going to actually have to administer it. They have a lot more experience with it. They actually do have some current members. They do have a CERT trailer now. We wouldn't have to worry. They do.
Really?
They do, and the state's starting to inventory all this stuff, and actually the municipalities now are going to have to be responsible for maintaining the trailers. We don't want to have to do that. Avalon's willing to do all of that because, as I stated, they currently have a trailer. And they need volunteers for their team too, because it has been quite some time. But we are being told that it won't just be for your local municipality, that they will have volunteer opportunities for these folks outside of the municipality. So again, from Ocean City, the idea I think going forward is going to be, we have the Escape of the Cape is this weekend. We need 20 volunteers. I don't think you're going to have any trouble getting that. Now, if we have a need for the team, we would have to coordinate it. Obviously, we would do it with the police department and whatnot. I'm thinking things like craft show for traffic enforcement, direction, stuff like that. And that's another thing. They are going to be sending these folks to the schools that's offered by the police academy that we send the class 1s to. So they will be trained in traffic control, which is really a big need that, right. Well, it's similar to what the fire police do, and but I do think too it'll free up our law enforcement folks as well. So
Been there, done that.
Right.
we're going to see what happens. Again, this isn't necessarily being resurrected on our level, the Stone Harbor's level. It's coming from the county, but I think we do owe it to our residents that are interested in volunteering and getting involved in the community to afford them that opportunity.
Is it working other places?
The
in New
problem is the
Jersey?
person, the individual that was in charge of the program.
I know.
It was his baby.
Yeah.
So it kind of, it just, there was no one at the helm, so to speak. Now they do have somebody there who is very involved, engaged, and wants to resurrect this program.
But I mean, is it in other places in the state of New Jersey, the CERT groups?
I
They're
believe so,
active?
absolutely. More so in the northern part of the
Right,
state.
okay.
With the bigger populations. I think just because simply there's more for them to do. And if
Yeah.
you have people that, as you know, you go through all this training,
Oh.
you're super excited, and then your phone doesn't ring, you know,
Yeah.
you're not going to be that vested into it. So,
Hmm.
so we will do that once we get, you know, the hard dates for everything, when the training is going to be, and with council's blessing, I'd like to put it out and see.
Yeah, then
We
can
might not
push
get
it out
anybody.
and see.
You know, might not get anybody, but I think if we could at least pull from our two populations, you know, it should,
Is there a requirement now for it to take it? Does the person have to be a past EMT, firefighter?
not that I'm aware
Anything?
of. Not that I'm-
Anything? Nothing?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, it's interesting.
At this point. I just think that, I think the training's over, don't quote me on this, but my notes, I think it's 8 weeks,
Wow, it's long.
but I
Yeah.
think it's like the 1 night a week or
Oh.
2 nights a
It
week.
was
I'm
2
not-
nights a week.
2 nights a
Okay.
week. And it will all be at municipalities throughout.
Yeah, and it was
Okay.
out in
They'll
courthouse.
move it throughout the county, so not everybody has to travel real far.
Okay.
You didn't take it?
There's
did you?
people that'll be
You
interested.
didn't take it?
I was a cop back then.
I think so, especially again, because they are, and again, I know, been there, done that, they are making a lot of assurances that, trust me, there will be events, there will be things, this rugby tournament, a perfect example, things like that. So as long as we keep the folks engaged, and we're being told they will be engaged,
Okay.
county OEM is going to make us have them engaged. The only other thing is, still haven't gotten the predictions from National Hurricane Center yet. Hopefully, we'll have them before next council meeting. I will tell you this, though, the early predictions that come out in the fall from Colorado State are calling for a less active hurricane season. We've had a very good March. Last year, I think we were under a flood watch advisory warning for March 18 days for the entire month. We do have a little storm brewing Thursday night, but we're nothing to worry about, hopefully. So, don't have anything else.
On the agenda has the warming center agreement. Is there something we need to touch on with that?
I think that's left over from last, we already signed it, it's already done.
Yeah, I think we're.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on board with that.
Okay.
We're waiting to hear there might be something coming down about cooling centers too now.
Okay.
So we're just kind of waiting on that one. It didn't come up, but the warming centers is the big one that we had to get to.
Okay.
And that's it.
Anything else? Okay.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
JT.
We have, that's the end of public safety, with the exception of 2 ordinance updates.
I'm happy to provide those now. I'm going to take them in reverse order. First, the flooding ordinance update. I met with Prosecutor Guarancini and discussed his comments. With some minor tweaking to facilitate witness testimony, we will have that ready for the next meeting for introduction. As to the drone ordinance, Frank did manage to reach out to the FAA. They did a point-by-point discussion of our ordinance. Some of these sections the FAA felt were preempted. Those will be removed. A modified ordinance will be provided. On a disappointing note, the FAA advises that they do not yet have the provisions to permit municipalities to exempt municipal property. They are working on it. They will have it shortly. On a brighter note, relative to our natural areas, there are provisions that we can include for those. So we should have a revised ordinance for you. It will probably be a work in progress as the FAA and the federal government amends what they're producing. We can respond and further amend ours. But we will have a model for introduction at the next meeting.
Mark, what about the critical facilities? Is that considered a municipal building or?
Critical facilities at present only deals with federal buildings.
Huh,
Right. And that's what they're working on,
Okay,
okay?
gotcha.
Natural Resources, Municipal Public Access Plan, and beach replenishment updates.
Trying to get away from the sun, sorry, it's like blinding me. Okay, the municipal access plan, we received a notice from the state saying that everything is fine with the plan, with the exception of we have to, in perpetuity, keep the beach end access as per our plan. So that requires, and I believe you, Mark, you determined an ordinance, correct? We do have a sample that they provided with us. We just wanted to bring it to your attention that we're going to need to do this, and we can have, hopefully, the draft for the next council meeting. I did notify them that we would be moving on, and that was sufficient to them to address their concern.
An introduction is sufficient of the ordinance.
Yes.
And beach replenishment?
So there,
Oh,
nobody's,
still-
nobody's worried about that word perpetuity? I mean, that's, I know that's what they're looking for, but it's like they're asking us to block this stuff off for now and ever and ever. And that's,
Can't go back.
we don't have a way around that. We don't, there's no recourse.
That's part of their requirements for the municipal access plan, and they require you to have one. I'd have to look at Mark to see if there's any way around it, but,
Well,
I mean, they're telling us
there
this is what you have to do.
You don't want what they're selling, but if you want what they're selling, then there's a standard, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a plan, but they say that unless we do this, it's not going to be in effect any longer, and then it may be more difficult to get another one. So
Correct, and
it's
it
like-
could be, they could make it more restrictive too, because you would have to meet the current regulations now, which I believe are more restrictive from when we introduced it.
So this boilerplate that's in our handouts, that came from, where did that come from?
From DEP.
And
It was a sample.
You,
That's their model.
Yeah.
have you been through it? I mean, have you
Not
read through it?
entirely,
And
no, I have not.
But we'll have, we'll have the solicitor
By
at
next-
least
Yes,
go
he's,
through it.
yeah, he
before
has it.
we-
Yes,
Okay.
he will review it. Okay, beach replenishment. We had a conference call the other day that I asked Mark to take for me because I was unavailable. I'll give a quick, my take on it, and then Mark can expand on it a little bit. But basically, Stone Harbor and Avalon were looked at for a beach replenishment in 2019. The word is because the fact that it's coming from Townsend's Inlet again, that Stone Harbor is not included in that. There's simply not enough money and not enough sand, which if those of you that were on council a couple years ago when this came out, that was one of my major concerns, that that's what was going to happen. There simply isn't going to be enough sand to coordinate two towns having a beach fill at the same time. I read the details of it today. I will reach back out to the representatives from DEP to voice my dissatisfaction because Stone Harbor didn't get the full beach fill last time. So my question will be, why isn't it our turn now?
What's the timing on this that it's supposed to be for 2019?
They said the fall for what.
The fall and then into the spring of 2020. But they have totally taken us out of that. Now, the good news is our beaches are good.
Right.
And where we can do some back passing and moving some of our sand, we will do that. We do know, as Dr. Farrell said, there's plenty of sand, obviously in Hereford, but also out further, mile out, I guess, on our beaches. So I think we should start looking into that possibility, but going to the second conference call, which was in the afternoon, to get an update on how we're going to deal with not being able to pull the sand from Hereford. They had outlined a few different scenarios of what we may have to do with that, and I think that we need to pull a meeting together with the solicitor, the mayor, and the chair of the Natural Resources and go over this and see which avenues we want to take on this. I think it's time. We are still moving forward with Avalon fighting this, but I think we
So that
may
united approach with North Wildwood, Avalon, Stone Harbor
Yes.
is still,
It's still there. I think we just need to amp it up,
okay.
especially for for Stone Harbor and North Wildwood. It's really not affecting Avalon, even though we appreciate.
Because they get
they're
their
fighting the
Stamfone
fight with us,
Townsend
but,
Inlet.
yeah, but the other, us and North Wildwood, it's obviously affecting us, so.
Okay.
And Mark, if you want to expand on that.
That was pretty much it. From what I gleaned, it was not good news, and I asked the ignorant question, which is, so what do we get it next year then? And I guess the response was, no, it's on a 3-year cycle, 3 or 4 year. So you're not, you got passed
2022.
over, and it's gonna be a couple more years, so it wasn't good news.
Yeah, I believe it said 2022, but again, there's still no guarantee that come 2022, they don't come up with the same determination, that it's too expensive to pump it. So I think that's got to be one of our biggest priorities moving forward.
Okay.
Well, I'm confused, what are we doing to try to fix that situation? I think I asked Farrell that when he was here, last month or the last council meeting? You know, are there any lobbying efforts moving
Yes.
forward on this Hereford Inlet issue? And he nodded
We-
his head, yeah.
We have had lobbying efforts done, letters have been sent, they've met with various congressmen, some that have retired. Conversations have been held with Van Drew. Some of the consideration might be to move forward with some type of lawsuit. These are things that we're going to have to talk about in a little more detail.
Yeah, and I guess sooner rather than later. if
Absolutely,
someone says-
absolutely
says,
sooner,
okay.
yes, definitely sooner than later.
You're involved in this process?
I was yesterday.
By default, he became me yesterday.
It became yesterday. Anything else for natural resources? Any questions?
All done?
That looks like the agenda. So what we'll do is we'll adjourn, we'll take about a 3-minute comfort break, and we'll come back and we'll start the council meeting. So I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Or adjourned?